largely dismissive of this. Our other team up at Fort Bragg is talking to some folks, including one veteran who is a Trump supporter who says, yes, he wishes Donald Trump didn't say what he said, but he believes there are bigger problems that the country faces that Trump is prepared to handle. So I think the question remains, and we'll see it play out this week, how much is this going to impact Donald Trump with voters in this, what is now the general election battle against Hillary Clinton?
Hallie Jackson reporting there in Columbus, Ohio. Hallie, thanks so much. Our Kelly O'Donnell in D.C., and we will go back to that Trump event, rally, whatever you want to call it. Speaking engagement coming up in the next hour. We will take you there here on MSNBC. But I do want to share more of the Khan's compelling and emotional interview today from Morning Joe, specifically when Mrs. Khan recounts her last conversation with her son.
I knew he will do something that will be hard for me, but he said, Mom, I have a responsibility for my soldiers, for my regiment and my people. I have a responsibility for them. I won't quit that responsibility. I love my soldiers, so I will be. I will take care of them.
Mansour Shams is a veteran and founder of MuslimMarine.org, and he joins me now from Baltimore. Mansour, thank you for your time. And yes, watching that is very heart-wrenching to hear from Mrs. Khan and talking about that last conversation with her son. The reporting from the ground, as we're hearing from our Hallie Jackson, and also that VFW statement about how this is going to play out with voters. As a veteran, and there are, I think, over 22 million veterans in this country, how do you think that they are going to look at this information, look at the candidate, and how that's going to impact them come November about whether or not they want to vote and trust Donald Trump?
Well, thank you for having me today. You know, you got me a little emotional looking right at this thing, and I wish you hadn't almost played that before this interview. But what I'm kind of shocked about is what's taking place in this country with Donald Trump almost getting away with almost anything that he says. You know, I'm reminded about the time where he, I think a few months ago, where he stood up giving a speech and he said that I could stand in the middle of New York City and shoot someone and I'd probably still get votes. So I thought about that when this incident took place, because metaphorically speaking, this is to a certain extent what exactly has happened. You have blacks that have been maligned, you have Mexicans that have been maligned, you have been it's talked about judges, you've been talking about Muslims. Well, I mean, heck, he hasn't even let go people who are individuals with disabilities. So this is a bit of a shock for me, and I think any person with some level of human decency could not be, you know, could stand there and just say, I'm going to go ahead and vote for this.
So the statement that you're referring to is Donald Trump saying I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters. That happened at the beginning of 2016. And all of this with the Khans, Mansour, was born because the Khans basically challenged Donald Trump as saying in their speech at the DNC that he had sacrificed nothing. And then Trump responded to that on Sunday after a question from ABC's George Stephanopoulos about what he has sacrificed. Take a look.
What sacrifice have you made for your country?
I think I've made a lot of sacrifices. I worked very, very hard. I've created thousands and thousands of jobs, tens of thousands of jobs, built great structures. I've had tremendous success.
So, Mansour, when you hear that, and also when you talk to veterans and Gold Star families, what do you think it means to them to hear a candidate try to compare what their sacrifice means to the ultimate sacrifice of what it is to be a Gold Star family?
Well, you know, as part of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, I was always taught that loyalty to country was a part of my faith. In fact, that's the fundamental part of my faith as taught by Islam. So what the Khans have been doing is telling America, look, there are some bad apples out there, but they don't represent you or I. This Muslim Marine, Humayun Khan, who did lay down his life for this country. I think it's really painful, it's troubling. As I mentioned in the beginning of the interview, if you hadn't played, I mean, I was literally getting emotional, shook up as you were playing that, because I could feel the pain of that mother as she was talking about her son. In my particular situation, I happen to be also of Pakistani descent. I also happen to be a Muslim. I also happen to be a Muslim Marine, a proud U.S. Marine for that fact. So this hits home in a very different way that perhaps maybe some other maybe veteran may not even feel the same hit as I do.
So, Mansour, when it comes to that, and I know about the organization that you have, Muslim Marine, do you think when it comes to being an American service member that we should have those descriptors as we talk about our military, whether they're a female service member or a Latino service member? Should it just be service member who happens to be Latino or service member who happens to be Muslim? Shouldn't it just be the respect about being part of our American service first? And isn't that what most folks within the military take a vow to? It's our Constitution.
I would wish that would be exactly what you just said. I would wish that's exactly what we followed. But in the country that we live in the world that we're living in right now, unfortunately, I have to talk about my faith. I have to highlight myself as being a Muslim American U.S. Marine. Now, maybe 15 years ago, would you have talked about that? No, because the Marine Corps values taught us God, country, corps. This is something that we repeated over and over and over again. No, it was not a Muslim God, it was not a Christian God, it was not a Jewish God. It was God, country, corps. So the only reason that I personally highlight Muslim Marine or Muslim service to America is because I want my fellow Americans to know that we are people who love America. We love America, if not more than you. We are loyal to this country. We care about this country, and we want to see the success of this country and not someone like maybe Donald Trump come in and take us 50 years back.
Do you think that candidate Trump owes an apology to the cons, or that they can both agree to disagree about the point?
You know, I think if he wanted to win some votes, if he was a smart man, you know, he would say, you know, I'm sorry, this is an area I should not have gone into. John McCain earlier talked about how there's certain areas, I think it was Lindsey Graham or John McCain, there are certain areas that we don't just go into. We don't care about what someone's religion is. We don't care where they came from. We don't care about their ethnic background. We know that this person laid down his life, and that's a reality. That's something that Donald Trump hasn't done or any member of his family has done.
Again, for the Gold Star families, we know about the fact that this is the ultimate sacrifice, and we certainly don't want to forget what they lived through in the moment of that time, certainly for the cons or the weeks, the days, the minutes after losing a loved one. Thank you. Mansour Sams of MuslimMarine.org. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
I want to pass along this programming note. Mr. and Mrs. Khan, they're going to join my colleague Chris Matthews tonight, Hardball, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on MSNBC. We've been asking in today's Microsoft Pulse question whether you think Donald Trump should apologize to the cons for the comments that he made, and